the year, Firki team is hoping that we can disseminate meaningful knowledge and skills that can take us closer to a goal of improving the quality of education in Indian classrooms. So this particular webinar will explore two main things. The first one is exploring common challenges teachers and educators face while engaging with social media platforms for their professional development. The second thing that we'll be focusing on is some practical solutions to ensure useful and effective engagement on social media platforms. So participants will be able to take away some ideas and tips for improving their practice on social media. So let me now introduce a speaker for today. Very excited about this. Radhika is Senior Academic Manager with British Council India. She's based out of Mumbai. Through her experience as a teacher, teacher educator, and as an academic manager, she has managed teacher development projects in partnership with state governments across the education sector. Radhika has substantial expertise of teaching English both face-to-face and online. She is particularly interested in the potential of using technology for teachers' professional development. Radhika has a master's in digital technologies, education and communication from the University of Manchester, and as part of her dissertation, looked at how online communities of practice through WhatsApp groups could help teachers develop professionally. She also has a postgraduate diploma in teaching English from English and Foreign Language University, Hyderabad, and a Cambridge Delta qualification. Radhika once hated Twitter, but now loves it and uses it extensively for her own CPD. A warm welcome to you, Radhika. Before moving on to the webinar, I'll quickly share the norms for today and I'll quickly hand it over to Radhika. One, given the audience that we have, please keep your video off and mic off to reduce the stress of the bandwidth. Unmute it only when the speaker asks us to do so. Keep a pen and paper or a pencil with you so that you can take notes, so that you can remember what we've been learning here. Also keep an eye on the chat box for you can type in any questions that you have. We will try and address as many questions as we can through the time that is available. I'll be curating all those questions and I'll ask all of them to Radhika at the end of this session. Also remember, like I said at the beginning, learning new things might be a little challenging. So hence, please ensure that you write down things you discuss with your peers at the end of this. This webinar will be recorded and will be available on YouTube and the Firki website very soon. That brings me to the end of my introduction. Before we go ahead with the webinar at hand today, we're going to start with a very short opening activity. All of us, all the participants here will switch on our mic for 30 seconds. And what we will do is we will say hello in our mother tongue. So it can be namaste, namaskaram, anything in our mother tongue. Okay, so when I say go, all of us will unmute and say. After 30 seconds, Prerna will mute all of us. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
Ram Ram.
Namaste.
Hi, how are
Namaskar.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaskara.
Namaste.
Vanakkam.
Ram Ram.
Vanakkam.
Thank you, everyone. This is one of the best parts of the webinar presentation because this helps us understand the different kinds of people that join this call. Thank you so much, everyone. And have a great evening. Over to you, Radhika. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Thank you, Firki team. And thanks, everyone, for making time today for this webinar. Elizabeth has already introduced me. I am Radhika. I'm Senior Academic Manager with the British Council in India. I'm based in Mumbai. And today I am going to talk about using social media effectively for learning and development. I'm very happy to be part of the first webinar in the series of this new learning path that Firki has come up with in partnership with British Council called Teaching in Action. And the next one is going to be on how to work on differentiated teaching to cater to differentiated learning by Priya Iyer and Shaumen Das Chaudhary. That's coming up on the 26th of November. So welcome you all on that note and bringing your attention back to my webinar a little bit. So as Elizabeth said, I have worked with teachers extensively, and she also said that I hated Twitter once. So, but I love it now. So I think I am going to draw a lot from my experiences and learning of working with teachers very closely. Quite recently, my work has largely been working with teachers to train or support them to use social media platforms or digital learning platforms better for their own professional development. So that's the experience I'm going to draw from today. One thing that I would like to clarify right at the start is the focus today is going to be on your own learning and development. Not so much on how to teach using social media in your classrooms, for example, which is also a big area of discussion and could be another webinar in itself. But I will try to share some resources with you at the end that could help you with that. Lastly, I also wanted to say that I myself reached out to my Twitter network to prepare for this webinar. So I wanted to thank all the teachers who helped me and answered some questions, including some of you who answered the pre-webinar survey for me. It helped me tremendously to put together this webinar, and I hope it's most relevant for you. So moving on, I'm going to start with outcomes. What are we going to achieve today in the next 45 minutes if I have all the time? So by the end of this workshop, you'll be better able to select appropriate social media platforms for your learning and development. Use some practical tips so that your engagement is better on these platforms, and largely engage safely on these platforms. So these themes have largely also emerged from your own your responses in the survey questionnaire, and I've tried to capture as many themes as possible. So what's going to happen overall in this webinar today? We are going to look at different social media platforms you could explore for your own use. Choosing the right platform, of course, that's the big question. I'm going to try to give you a decision matrix, a set of things that you could think about before deciding on a platform. Safety. We're going to talk about some more challenges and some case studies, and of course, end with tips. And of course, you'll also have some time to ask questions and answer questions to me at the end. So why social media for learning and development, right? So let's begin with this basic thing. In your survey responses, some of you said that you've just started using social media. Some of you said that you have started, but you feel lost with the information, etc. But the question still, I think a good question to start with is, why would you use social media for your learning and development? So could you think of one advantage of using social media for learning and development? And only one word, please. And I would like you to do this on the Mentimeter website, please. If you could go to this website and use this code, you could also use the QR code to get there. Just one word. What comes to your mind? What do you think of when you think of social media? I'm just going to keep this slide for a couple of seconds and then move to the Mentimeter website to see what your responses are like. Elizabeth, do let me know if there are issues in the chat, because I'm not opening.
Yes, Radhika. I'll keep an eye on the chat.
Sure.
Dear participants, so you can see a link on the chat box. Please
Yeah.
click on that and then enter the code 4077364. And then you can enter the response there, not here on the chat, but on the Mentimeter. So we can see everything together.
Everyone's responses, that's right. And in fact, if they use the link as is, I don't think they will need the code.
Perfect, perfect. You can use the link given here.
Trying to go. So that's the range of response. Okay, very easy. That's the first. Inclusive, far-reaching. I hope everyone can see this response. It's really a range of things that social media does to everyone. That's actually the beauty of it. Yes, building connectivity, it keeps you updated. You can share. Far-reaching, yes. Diversity in views, so important. Assessment, that's interesting. Okay. Mass approach. Easy, faster, accessibility. Collaboration, very key, big words, yes, very important. Resources and wild platforms. Communities of practice, absolutely. That's true. All right. So connected, and connection are the most typed options. All right. Okay, network. All right, CPD. Okay, I think I'm just going to go back to the presentation quickly. Okay, so yes, thanks a lot for that. You yourself saw the range of responses that came through. Connection, connected, accessibility. I like easy and very easy the most. I think in that case, I hope I have something for you in this webinar. Hope the challenges we discuss are useful for you. But very important points. The best thing I like about social media is the fact that you can reach anybody practically today to connect with. So if you like an actor, you can tweet to the actor talking about professional development. If you want to reach out to some experts in your field, nothing stops you really. They have to be on those social media platforms for you to reach out to them. But there is always a way to reach out to these experts or people you look up to in your field. And that makes it very democratic for me. I think that's the best. That's my reason of engaging with social media so much. So thanks very much for participating in this. We'll move on now from here. A quick check, okay? I want to check with you how many of you know these logos on the right, extreme right of the screen. You may see some of the logos. So I'm just going to look at the chat quickly. So do you know any of these platforms? Can you see the logos on the screen?
Can you say chat box so you can respond which of these you know?
I'm tracking the chat box as well. Yes, Padlet. Yes, you know all of them. Great. Okay. That's going to be a smooth ride then. Absolutely. Absolutely. Great. Okay. So what we're going to do is, for those of you who probably have, know about them, like I knew some of them, but I didn't know all of them in terms of what they do. We are going to look at what they do, what kind of function they have. So there is Periscope, there is Tumblr, there is LinkedIn, Pinterest, Padlet, TeacherTube, and TED. Right? This is not an exclusive list. These are just some platforms that go beyond your WhatsApp and Twitter. I thought of sharing with you. What we're going to do is, I'm going to share this purpose statement on the right, okay, and you're going to match it to the platform, right? For example, you can search for a job and maintain professional connections here. I think this one is the easiest. Absolutely, yes, it's LinkedIn. Brilliant, brilliant. Thanks everyone. Overwhelming responses on the chat. Okay, so just let's go on with the next one. Okay, this one, you can find lesson plans with animations of a range of themes here. What do you think this one is? Could be TeacherTube. It's debatable, but this one specifically has. So I'll come to the answers. Hold on to, yes, could be. Some of them, you have a good point. I think the responses that are coming up in the chat just tell us that some of them overlap into each other, while, you will have these kind of resources on many of the platforms. Could be TeacherTube. There is one more though there. Okay, we will hold on to this one. I'm going to share the answers in a bit. Let's move on to the next one. You can share and or find instructional videos and content here. Maybe now you want to rethink of the options. Absolutely, it's TeacherTube. Brilliant. Okay. All right, the next one. You can find several blogs here and you can also write them here. You can write blogs on this platform. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tumblr could be the one. Right. Here's the next one for you. You can broadcast live video through this app or this platform. Yes. Okay. There is a fight between TED, TEDx and Periscope. Okay, all right. Let's see what we will soon see the answers, but I'm not giving them away right away. This one, all information is in the form of pinned information. This is, I think, there is a giveaway there. Pinterest, absolutely. Okay. And the last one, I'm not sure if you can see this one because of this tab. This one is almost like an online notice board. Yes, it's Padlet. Okay. I'm going to close the chat. All right. So the answers for you are here. Most of you got them right. And you're right that some of them, will have, there is no absolute platform. There are some platforms that also have lesson plans and animation, but some of them exclusively host those. So that's I'm not able to see the chat. If Elizabeth, if something comes up, do let me know. But also I wanted to make another point about these platforms. Not all of these could be effective for your professional development specifically, but there is no stopping you from exploring any of these. In my observation with teachers and work with teachers, or my own experience of using social media, it is pretty much what suits you, if there could be a platform that nobody likes, but you find very comfortable to engage on. So no harm in exploring this. So moving on, the biggest challenge, we're going to start with the core of the webinar now. Okay, this one came out as the most frequently mentioned challenge in your survey responses as well. Choosing the right platform. How do you choose the right platform for your learning needs? Could you give it a thought quickly and type in the chat? How do you choose? Currently, what are the things that you think about while choosing your platform?
You can type in the chat box. Yeah.
Easy access. Okay, that's very interesting. Safety and security, most access. Where my colleagues are. Recommendations, good lesson plans. Okay, so there is good content, easy access, popular ones, ready to use material, user friendly. Okay. There's something about kids access. How easy is it to access for kids? This is very interesting. Yes. Very interesting criteria coming up. Something I have learned today. I'm going to make a note of all these points. All right. Okay, let's pause the discussion there, but you can keep your answers coming in. What I'm going to share with you is 3 basic criteria. All right. Like a decision matrix. We are going to work through some of the criteria and find out what the best platform for us could be. So of course, the criteria you've mentioned in the chat box are very, very important. How good the content is, how easy is it for me to access, how credible is this content, are my colleagues there, etc. Of course. So there is no dearth of the criteria, but these 3 are the basic ones that I feel could help you make that basic first choice of what type of social media platform you want to engage with. So what I would like you to do right now is individually, I want you to think of, for example, look at the first one, type of information. That's the first criteria. I would like you to think of an option that's most suitable for you. So for example, do you like quick information? In that case, you note A in your notebook or somewhere. I like in-depth information, you note a B, and you are a person who likes a combination of both, then you choose A and B like that. That's the C option. So somewhere, can you make a note of what's best what best describes your need of the type of information. You don't have to put it in the chat. You can just keep it to yourself, but just make a note of it. Okay. So I'm moving on to the next criteria, that is time. So if you could think about how much time do you like spending on social media? For example, I can spend not more than 5 to 15 minutes daily. Anything longer than that, and I lose attention, I lose focus. Or I can spend 30 minutes to an hour daily at a stretch so that I can engage with detailed information and learn something complete. So you can just select one option, A or B. And the last one is engagement and source of information. So do you prefer connecting with similar minds, similar people like you, or do you specifically want information from experts, or do you like a bit of both? So if you've completed this exercise, you should have one option for type of information, one for time, and one for engagement and source of information. If you've made those notes, we can move forward. I'm just going to quickly check the chat. Oh, okay, you're typing your options, but please remember what your options are as well. Yeah. It's a good point. Yes, what about variety of ideas or opposing viewpoints? So when I say similar minds, Aarti, it is more about, you want to connect with similar people like teachers, but they may have opposing views or they may have different views. Right, so let's see what the results look like, right? So think about, what do you have? Do you have mostly A's, mostly B, or C? As I mean, two of the criteria have C as well. I'm just going to have a very simplistic analysis of this, okay? It's not so simple, but we are going to try to do it because we have a time constraint with us. So if your answers were mostly A's, right, you seem to be a person who likes quick interaction, bite-sized information, quick information. You probably want something on the go, and you want to just dip in and dip out of information, probably, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. In which case, maybe you could engage more on platforms such as Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, and Pinterest. But if your responses were mostly B's, then you seem like a person who likes in-depth engagement, who likes to spend a longer time on social media and learn in detail, have more information about one thing, but a lot of it may be enough for you to learn something concretely. In which case, you seem to be like a person who would like an online course and a following discussion, something on FutureLearn, Coursera, Tumblr, WordPress, reading blogs, or even watching long videos. So videos can kind of fall into both categories. Now, there is no right or wrong here. This is really a basic metrics, and the criteria you outlined, of course, to add to that criteria, there could also be how safe do you feel on that platform? Are you a kind of a person who likes to produce content, or do you like to consume content more? That is, receive information or also give out information. So depending on these points, you may choose your platform. Having said that, it's not all, I mean, for me personally, I choose one of each to maintain a balance, because there are pros and cons for each of them. But there is, again, it's each to his own. You like quick information, go for these platforms. This choice is very important for you to make, and it shouldn't stop you from exploring other platforms, but it's a good starting point for those who haven't started engaging or have just started engaging, right? So just moving on quickly to the second biggest issue, that is how to be safe on social media platforms. These were the two themes that came out very strongly again in your survey questionnaires. So how to be safe? Okay, can you think about this maintaining online identity and presence? Can you put some thoughts in the chat what this could mean? Oh, you're still at the options. I'm sorry, I can't see the chat always simultaneously. I must have. You have CBC.
Yeah, that they've already sent in the chat box when you were discussing.
Okay. So if you could think about what maintaining online identity and presence could mean, if you could give some thoughts on the chat in the chat box. It's a long pause. Okay. Yes. Being very careful while sharing information. Very interesting. Not sharing your location, personal, very, very important. Phone numbers, absolutely. Registering and having passwords, very important, yes. I'm just going to borrow from here a little bit, but also add on to what maintaining online identity and presence would mean. Many of these platforms ask you to develop a profile, right? Which helps you introduce yourself to the community out there. Do you have a clear profile picture, for example? Have you clearly laid out what your interests are, why, and what your purpose is to be on that platform? If you have these things in place, it's more likely that you attract the right kind of connections to your profile, or you get those kind of that kind of attention on social media. So it's very important to have a very you can have a fun profile, but it needs to be very clearly communicating to the community what you're there for and who you are. So your identity needs to be clear. A big part of maintaining online identity and presence is also, somebody has said here, sharing the right kind of information that also adds to your reputation online, right? Are you sharing authentic posts? Are you sharing only personal opinions, or are you also sharing genuine reflections that others seek on these platforms sometimes? Good point. Yes, scared to upload my own pic. Yes, you can use, nowadays you have these apps where you can, you can have a caricature of yourself, but it's better than having a tree as your profile picture. It makes it look less serious. And also, Kalyani, going back to the point, if you curate your profile, if you have the right platform, if you're engaging in the right way, you should be okay sharing a profile pic, but it's of course your personal choice. But coming back to what other points come under maintaining online identity and presence. Yes, what kind of information are you sharing? Is it authentic? Are you sharing genuine reflections and resources? Are you verifying information before sharing? Are you tweeting, retweeting, sharing, reposting information or fake news, which is, which is not going to go down well for your followers, maybe? So that's an important part of maintaining that online presence. Are you only sharing? Sorry, are you only consuming? As I said earlier, are you just, there's a word researchers use or even commonly used that is lurking on social media, which means you are around, but you don't really do anything. You just receive information, you learn maybe, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong about it. But I feel from experience, it's good to have a balance between consuming information, but also giving back to the community in a way that benefits others, because it is, social media at the end of the day. The last thing I want to say about maintaining online identity and presence is something quite argued in circles sometimes. I personally feel that it's good to have a separate professional profile on the choice, on the selected platform, and a separate personal profile, which helps you to sort of demarcate those boundaries. Some of your contacts will overlap, of course, but what you share, like your pics or your picnic pics or your holiday pictures, you may want to not share them with your professional networks, or choose what to share. So personally, I would say, especially if you're starting off on social media, it's good to have two different profiles so it's easier to manage. But there are teachers I know who very, very skillfully manage one profile for everything. And I mean, I'm not as skilled as they are, but they do it, and it's okay to do that as well. So that's about maintaining online identity and presence. The second is about interacting purposefully and responsibly. Any thoughts on this one? What that could mean? Yeah, it's a good one. Keep checking your privacy settings, lurking or like not crossing boundaries with others. All right, what do these boundaries mean? What okay, while I'm waiting for your responses, yes, citing sources correctly, all of that ties into this. But also, sometimes we tend to overwhelm these platforms with messages, retweets, sharing of information, just to be active on the platform. But sometimes if you're on the receiving end, you may feel very overwhelmed with the kind of messages that are going on that are coming from your profile. So you may want to think very carefully about why you're sharing and why is it important for you to share. Maybe filter some of the messages that you want to share. And by responsibly, we mean, of course, we don't want to be bullied, or we don't want to be trolled for something. We don't want somebody to be impolite to us, and that applies to our behavior online as well. Managing trolls and bullies, it's straightforward. All these 3 points link into each other, right? If you have the right kind of profile and presence online, if you're curating it constantly, if you're reflecting it on it and changing it, and if you're interacting appropriately on the platforms and as per your needs, then you're very unlikely to face bullies or trolls. The simplest way to deal with them, I don't think I need to tell you, is you can block them. You can even, some platforms allow you to report them. Even on WhatsApp, you can block numbers nowadays. So I think that's quite a straightforward solution. This one is very important. Yes, don't get into personal arguments online. True. Curating your network is very important, and all these 3 points help you. You have to treat your profiles online, presence online, as ever evolving. You have to revisit, reflect, and think what changes do you want to make so that the right kind of information comes to you, and that requires ongoing efforts. And all these points are going to help you do that, right? So I reached out to some of the teachers I know to give you top tips on safety online, and here's some of them. This is from Tausif Sheikh, who's a teacher. They say, I have this weird line on the screen which I did not do, but it's okay. Join a teacher organization. It will help you identify potential educators to follow and also to build your personal learning network. I really like this tip because especially if you're starting out on social media, it's always good to join an authentic, reputed organization, maybe, and then you are led to the right people to follow or to listen to or to go to webinars eventually. So that kind of helps you to filter the kind of contacts you want to get in touch with. Don't think twice to unfollow someone. If you think the profile is not relevant to you, unfollow. It will help you keep your timeline specific. I think, yes, we have to be careful with this one. I mean, of course, it's true if there are, especially if you suspect somebody to be a troll or a bully, you should unfollow, block, whatever is required to be done. But there are some other, peers sometimes who may not be relevant to your interest, and I think it's okay to unfollow, and you can even if you know them personally, you can manage that relationship. But it's okay to curate your feed. That's, I think, the core of what Tausif is saying. We have Suyog Dikshit, also a teacher again, who has given 2 very crisp tips for us, and something I think somebody posted, Aarti posted on the chat. Don't post political views and block cyberbullies. I think this one is a tricky one. Again, you may want to post your views because there's freedom of speech, but if you're especially engaging on social media for your professional development, better to not get into controversial areas which may color people's perception of you and hinder your own pathways to progress professionally. And that is why I will link this back to what I said, that you could have a personal profile where you could share your views. Having said that, nowadays, there is very little chance that your personal views will, sharing personal views on your personal profiles will not affect your professional profiles. It will affect most likely, but you'll still have a platform to share. The second one is don't accept friend requests from unknown people. This one is very obvious. We tell this to our kids, to everyone, don't talk to strangers. But what I have noticed working with teachers is this word unknown is very different to different people. Some of us meet somebody once and we are okay to accept their request. Some of us do a lot of research about them to find out if they're worth adding to our network. Is it going to be beneficial? Some of us just add people, go on adding people. I think it's up to your comfort level, but it's not so safe, obviously, to add people you don't know. There are these tips from me that I thought about to summarize. There are these, I'm just going to close this. Okay, so we have tried to keep your personal and professional profiles separate. Good to have a clear profile picture and specific description of your interests helps to not attract irrelevant connections. The most important one, verify information before you tweet, retweet, share, or like or post. It's very important. Okay, so some of the other challenges that you mentioned in your survey, focus and time management, yes. Information overload, a lot of it coming from all directions, addiction of a sort. I remember one response in the survey that said that I cannot stop looking at the phone, or I have to keep checking what's next. It's not a clinical addiction, but it's sort of like you are glued to the phone. But this one is the most important for me, the social media trap, as I call it. The likes, views, and subscribers, right? That's the nature of social media engagement. So if you understand how social media works, that people will only communicate with you through likes, through posts, through retweets, views, and subscribes, it can be a little daunting sometimes to accept if your post is not liked enough or your thought is not retweeted. And that can cause a lot of mental unrest sometimes to people. So that is something I think we need to acknowledge, that there is a world beyond this. And it is at the end of the day, social media, and understand its limitations. And this is not going to define your participation or your views online. I've ran through these because I feel that if you get your platform right, and if you manage to be safe online, then a lot of these issues will subside automatically. If you are not on too many platforms, for instance, and if you are on focused platforms, then you will automatically manage your time. You will be able to focus better. You will be able to manage information that's coming from all directions. And well, addiction, I mean, to put it mildly, if you're glued to your phone, that's something you'll have to work on. But I have a very obvious tip a little later for that. We are going to move to this because I think this is very interesting. Help these teachers. I have 2 case studies with me. I'm going to share them with you. I would like you to identify one thing that they are doing right and one thing they are not doing right, so they need to work on. Okay. So yeah, 1 second. I'm going to open the chat again. So read the story and think about Okay, yes. Any ideas on how to check these facts? Yes. Experimenting is fine. You should try different platforms. When I say should, it's again up to you, but it's good to try different platforms because they do keep popping up, but you're free not to. Fact fact checking has come up very strongly, but what would you do to skim, scan, fact check? Yes, fact checking websites, right? Authenticity, absolutely. So some of the very good responses coming out. I think some of the key things that you could look at when checking facts is, who is the author's profile clear? Do they have a name? Do they have a face? Do they have any credentials? Do they belong to some reputed organization? What kind of information are they sharing? Is it an opinion? Is it a fact? Is it propaganda, for example? And besides fact checking websites, and these are some of the things that you could quickly check and see if the information is authentic. But sharing should be done very carefully. If not sure, better not to share. Absolutely. I think acknowledging your source is very important as well. Don't share when in doubt. Absolutely. And the other thing is plagiarism, right? I mean, if you are sharing information that somebody else has produced, it's good to acknowledge the source, where it comes from, the name of the person from whom it comes from. I think just like I've used the teacher's name for their quotes, for example. Absolutely. One thing that this person has got right is the experimentation part probably, but one thing they need to do is, use more fact-checking tools. I'm moving on to the next case study. I think we are falling short of time. I guess I have very little time left, but I'm almost done, I promise. So this one, to read out for those who cannot read. I've just started using social media for my own learning. I think I'm very comfortable using Facebook. I'm part of a close teachers group. I feel safe and I feel like I can share and learn here. But I do feel I'm missing out on what's happening on other platforms. Happens to me. And I find it very difficult to switch off from Facebook. I find myself constantly checking for new messages and likes for my posts. Okay, let's see. Any comments for this one? Yeah. I like the way it's succinctly put: usefulness, good; addiction, bad. That's a good one. Harti and Bhavna have said FOMO. Can you also expand on what is FOMO in the chat? Fear of missing out. Absolutely. Detox. Right. Okay. Yeah, learning from Facebook could be, I think what this person has got right is that they've identified the platform and they've used good criteria to select that platform. They've used and experimented with it. But I think, yes, use time limit on your social media apps. It's a very good suggestion. Okay. All right. So Rupali, it's a very good point. I'm going to come to that point in a bit. All right. So yes, this one, I think this teacher has got the platform right for them. It's working. It seems like it's working for them. But in terms of addiction and in terms of not being able to switch off, I think one of the teachers I met, suggested this solution, that they have a group of peers who are on different social media platforms, and then they share with each other sometimes, maybe you're missing out something from Twitter and something from Facebook, so they share. That's a good way to look at it. But I think somebody had a good suggestion in the chat to have a time limit on the app, which is good. And I'm going to share some more soon. So some tips from me, final tips from me. But before going into the tips, one thing that I think Rupali mentioned in the chat, one thing I probably missed sharing with you is that it's not so beneficial to use social media in isolation for your professional development. It's always good to combine it with other forms of professional development, like reading newspapers, reading books, journaling your reflections, because then your social media engagement will become more enriched, I believe. It's a good point. Thank you for reminding me. Some quick tips and end. Think through very clearly what you want to gain out of your engagement. Actually sit down and make a note of it. What is it that you want to gain? And you can use the decision matrix I shared with you earlier. Stick to 1 or 2 platforms you most engage with. This one, shadow and observe behaviors on a new platform before you actively engage. That will help you in identifying do's and don'ts. What is the language people are using on that platform? What is safe to do? What is not safe to do? Share authentic information and evaluate all information you find online. Curate your feed and profile. We've already talked about this one. Set time aside for your engagement. I know many teachers who are okay looking through their profiles throughout the day, which is fine if it works. But it's good to have a no phone zone during the day, or a no phone time, hour, weekend, something to park. Because one thing we also must remember is that when we are on social media, we are constantly taking in information, and we need to carve out time to reflect and think about this information as well. Otherwise, it's just going to flip through our heads. Share if you have something valuable to say. Try not to just receive or consume. That's it from my side. And you can type your questions in the chat box. I'm sorry to overrun a few minutes, I think. But yeah. It is the group. Yeah. Okay. Yes, these are very good ideas and very good ways of using other technology platforms to organize your ideas. Bookmarking your posts, blogs, tweets, save your tweets, maintaining a book or an Excel sheet with relevant ideas. One of the platforms we talked about, Padlet, I think even Pinterest would allow you to organize some of your information bites very well. Please give social media for lesson plan. Actually, there is something you could find on Google. If you Google this, you will find something. I think there is something from the British Council online, a social media lesson plan. Elizabeth, do you have questions for me?
Yeah, Radhika, so we're just waiting for the participants also enter in chat. We are also monitoring the YouTube chat.
Sure.
Dear participants, both Zoom and YouTube, please enter any questions you have in the chat box. We can answer those questions in the next 10 minutes.
Okay, I'm just going to go back to the tips
slide.
Requested. Sorry if I ran through it.
There's one question on how do teachers use social media with students?
That's a good point. And that's something, I mean, I really thought about it when I was working on this webinar. Most of it really makes for another webinar, to be honest. But I'm going to share some resources at the end there that they could use. They will find information in there to use social media with their students. But having said that, some of the principles that we talked about, some of the criteria and tips that we talked about clearly apply to students as well. I mean, if we are using social media with students, as teachers, we will have to ensure that our children are protected. So first thing I would do is to have, an online digital safety, digital child protection policy seek that policy from the school or institution that we work with. Get their profiles right. Some of the safety tips that were given were pretty much there. I think one thing that has worked with learners, if you want to bring them on social media, is having closed, using platforms that have closed, that give you the possibility of using closed groups, such as Facebook, where you can protect your children and still do. But there are other platforms, not to stop you from anything.
There are just a few more questions.
Sure.
How to select only relevant information from too much information on social media? So there'll be a lot, but how do you select it?
It's a good point. I think I'll go back to what I said, that, there could be a few reasons why you're getting too much information. I think the first question we should be asking is, why am I getting so much information? Uh, um, if you are on too many platforms, then you are likely to get too much information. Even newsletters, that we subscribe to, you may want to take a pause and think what newsletter is the most relevant for me. What is it that, I use the most, and actually unsubscribe from the rest. I think that itself is a big step in cutting down on all the information that comes to you. About really selecting information, I would really suggest this to everyone, that the kind of matrix we tried using, to select the platform, it'll be good if you reflect on what are the important things for you. What kind of information are you looking for? Outline certain criteria and use that to select, because otherwise, I mean, any criteria I give, of course, it's got to be authentic. It's got to be, acknowledged properly. It's got to be coming from the right sources. But apart from that, it's got to be addressing your needs. So it's very important for you to define that criteria, in my opinion.
Makes sense. That's another question from Radhika. But so, would it be ideal to set aside separate blocks of time for curating a profile and just receiving or reading an info? Separate time for both.
Yeah, that's a very good suggestion. Actually, you could, Radhika, my namesake, could add this in the tips list. I think it's a good idea to, just like we keep time aside for lessons, reflecting on our lessons when we teach them. It's a good idea to keep time aside to reflect on how our engagement has been. Has there been any time wasted, for example, on any of these platforms? But, another thing that sometimes prods me to think about it. Sometimes when I'm looking through my Twitter feed and I find some, outlying element or some message that suddenly pops out on my Facebook or Twitter feed, that is not me, that is something I wouldn't subscribe to. I take that moment to curate it right there and then. Why is it happening? Am I following somebody who is, showing these messages? So that's another way.
Radhika, we can't hear you. I think we lost you. Yeah, we can hear you now. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Elizabeth.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, there are a few more questions. Is there any social media platform you would recommend for evaluation?
For evaluating, did you say?
Yeah, evaluation. So I'm guessing it might be assessments or anything, but it's also, I think, from YouTube chat also, like specific on evaluation.
I think they could use something like Edmodo. Personally, I haven't used it a lot, but I do hear from others that there is a possibility of having quizzes and surveys and questionnaires on there. In fact, something like Mentimeter could also be used. Something we use today could also be used for that. But I think what's most important is to keep your students' identities very safe and keep them safe on these platforms. I think these should be safe to use.
Okay, makes sense. How can parents and teachers use social media or regulate it for children? How do we do that?
Oh my God. That's a very big question. Again, asks for another webinar. How could they limit? I don't have much experience in that area, but I think what works for everyone is what I have noticed with my niece and, personally around kids around me is that they exactly, this, I think I don't have to say this, but they mirror their parents. Sometimes I've seen many of my, contacts, they are using social media a lot themselves on the phones, but they want to have these slots and times and, no phone zones for their kids, which doesn't work because they're too smart. And I think it's again, not my area of expertise, but I think what would work is having it as a, following it as a full family. If you follow it as a norm in the family that, okay, we are not going to bring phones to the dinner table is the most common one, I think.
Makes sense. So just one more question and then close out. How much time do you spend on social media and what else do you do to keep updated other than using social media? Well, how can we keep ourselves updated?
Right. I think I'm in extremes. I only use Twitter mostly. I am a very sort of a quick information, bite-sized information kind of a person. But what I do is that if there is something that appears on my feed that leads me to a blog or a journal article, then I pursue it. But I select what I want to read through Twitter. So my main sort of source of information is Twitter. But on the other hand, I do a lot of research myself. So I do, as you heard from Elizabeth at the beginning, I do constantly investigate how teachers use social media platforms, especially WhatsApp. And one of my dissertations is focused on that. So another form of professional development is completely, pen and paper reading kind of a professional development for me. And I work with that kind of extreme approach, but may not work for everyone.
Thank you so much, Radhika, for that. It was just a very, very wonderful, informative, I think, to the point session. So it was not just going here and there. I think everything was to the point and a lot of things to take away. I request you also to quickly share your thoughts on this webinar today. How was it? And what are your top of mind thoughts?
I think we had a lovely, participation on the chat. I mean, I was tempted to look into the chat constantly. It is just very relevant thoughts coming out, and I can see that at least I felt that participants are thinking as we moved along in the webinar, and I really hope that it helped most of you at least in curating and making hopefully it'll make your engagement better in the future. But kudos to the participants and kudos to the Phirki team for managing it so well, and my colleagues and everyone who supported me in doing this webinar. I want to give a shout out quickly to all the teachers, as I said, on my Twitter network, who helped me respond to all the questions I was asking them while shaping this webinar up. So thanks to them also. Overall, I enjoyed this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Like you said, I think we had a wonderful set of participants sharing their opinion. I think there are lots of learning also from the chat box. Just saving the chat box is a big, big learning experience also for us. Thank you so much, dear participants too. Our next webinar as part of the Learning Path Teaching in Action is scheduled to take place on November 26th on how to work on differentiated teaching to cater to differentiated learning. So please do look out for Phirki emails in your inbox for more information on the upcoming webinar. Also, before you leave, please take some time to give us feedback on this learning experience. This will definitely help us improve and make our next webinars better, also add much more resources for you. Also, once you fill this feedback form, you will get a certificate in that registered email ID automatically. So please ensure to fill this feedback form. To reach out to Radhika for any questions or to have, please write to teachenglish.india@britishcouncil.org or please follow at Teach India on Twitter and at Teach English in India on Facebook for more updates. This will all be pasted on the chat box. Also, please follow like Phirki Portal on Insta, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter to understand more about the work or the other updates that you want to get. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Radhika. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone, and happy Diwali to everyone.
Happy Diwali.
Thank you. Bye-bye.